Congress established a tax on whiskey in 1791 to help reduce the $54 million national debt. The tax was loathed across the country. For a small group of farmers west of the Allegheny Mountains, the federal excise tax was detestable. Bartending was the chief means of exchange in the frontier economy, and distilled spirits were the most commonly traded commodity. Cash was a disfavored currency in western Pennsylvania during the late 18th century. But whiskey, especially Monongahela rye, was as valuable as gold. Whiskey was considered an all-purpose liquor because it was used for cooking, medicine, and drinking, among other uses. By modern standards, the excise tax of 1791 does not seem oppressive. Distillers were taxed based on the size of their stills. Stills with the capacity to annually produce at least 400 gallons of whiskey were taxed between 7 and 18 cents a gallon, depending on the proof of the liquor. Distillers who made stronger whiskey paid a higher tax. Smaller stills were taxed at a rate of 10 cents for every month the still was in operation, or 7 cents for every gallon produced, whichever was lower. Based on these rates, the average distiller was required to pay only a few dollars in liquor tax each year. But even an annual tax of $5 would have consumed a large percentage of the disposable income earned by farmers in the barter-based economy of western Pennsylvania. The rebellion began in Pittsburgh during October of 1791 when a group of disguised farmers snatched a federal tax collector from his bed and marched him 5 miles to a blacksmith shop where they stripped him of his clothes and burned him with a poker. Over the next 3 years, dozens of tax collectors were beaten, shot at, tarred and feathered, and otherwise terrorized, intimidated, and humiliated. The home and plantation of John Neville, the chief tax collector for southwestern Pennsylvania, was burned to the ground. By 1794, the tax lay largely uncollected in western Pennsylvania. The national debt was rising, and respect for federal authority was declining. Rebel forces had swelled to 5,000. In October, President George Washington dispatched 15,000 troops to suppress the resistance. Led by Alexander Hamilton, the federal troops met little opposition. Within a month, most of the rebels had dispersed, gave up their cause, or left the state. In May of 1795, the Circuit Court for the Federal District of Pennsylvania charged 35 defendants for an assortment of crimes associated with the Whiskey Rebellion. 2 men, John Mitchell and Philip Vigol, were found guilty of treason and sentenced to hang. The Whiskey Rebellion occupies a distinguished place in American law, serving as a backdrop to the first treason trials in the United States. Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution defines treason as levying war against the United States. During the trial of these 2 men convicted of treason, Circuit Court Judge William Patterson instructed the jury that levying war includes armed opposition to the enforcement of federal law. This interpretation of the treason clause was later applied during the trial of John Fries, leader of Fries Rebellion, and remains valid today. By extinguishing the Whiskey Rebellion, the U.S. government withstood a formidable challenge to its sovereignty, preceded by Shays' Rebellion in 1786, and followed by Fries' Rebellion in 1799. The Whiskey Rebellion is distinguished by its size.